There is a presence within you, older than the stars and more constant than time, a presence that did not arrive when you were born, but one that whispered your being into existence. It is not your body, though it breathes life into your lungs. It is not your mind, though it inspires your thoughts. It is the eternal force, the divine pulse, the infinite intelligence that carved rivers through mountains and beats your heart without your permission. And this force, this source, did not leave you. It is not something you need to earn or seek or borrow from another. The force that created you is still within you. Pause for a moment. Breathe, not from the chest, but from the soul. Let the breath come as if you are being breathed, not as a doing, but as a being. Feel the silence underneath the noise. There is a field of stillness beneath every thought, every identity, every mask you've ever worn. And in that stillness, in that silent space between breaths, dwells the divine. We spend so much of life searching for love, for meaning, for proof that we matter. We try to build ourselves through achievements and accolades, hoping they will fill the invisible spaces we fear. But what if I told you that you were never meant to find yourself out there? What if the treasure you seek has been resting in the quiet center of your being all along? What if the divine is not in some distant sky, but humming gently beneath your skin? The trees do not strain to be magnificent. The ocean does not apologize for its depth, and the stars do not ask permission to shine. Why then do you doubt your own radiance? Why do you hide your light beneath layers of not enough? You are not a mistake. You are not a project in need of fixing. You are a miracle of intention, the expression of a source so loving it birthed galaxies just so you could wake one morning and smile. And yet we forget. We forget who we are. We fall asleep in roles. We let the ego speak as if it were truth. It tells us we are our past. It says we are what we produce. It convinces us that if we just accomplish enough or heal enough or impress enough, then we'll be worthy of the love that is already ours. But you are not your ego. You are not your fears. You are not the voice in your head that demands more from you than you've ever given. You are the one who hears that voice. You are the presence behind it. You are the eternal witness, not the passing weather of thoughts, but the unchanging sky that holds them. There is no need to strive to become something. The force that created you never stopped dwelling within you. It does not ask you to achieve your way to grace. It asks only for your remembrance. Remember, that is a sacred word. Remember who you were before the world told you who to be. Remember the stillness. Remember the love. Remember that you are not separate from God. You are an extension of that very essence. And what is God if not the love that knows no opposite? What is the divine if not the ever-giving source that breathes life into all things and withholds nothing? That same love, that same force formed you. Not in error, not in accident, but in sacredness. And it remains not outside you, but within, pulsing through your every breath, waiting not to be proven, but to be felt. Do you feel it in the quiet, in the surrender, in the unguarded moments when the world slips away and all that's left is the soft hum of your being? That is the divine. That is the force that has never abandoned you, even when you abandon yourself. Let go of the story that says you must climb to find enlightenment. Stop chasing, stop bargaining. You were never meant to ascend. You were meant to remember, to return, to sink into the ocean of your being and discover that you were never a drop. You were always the sea. When Jesus said, the kingdom of heaven is within you, he wasn't speaking in metaphor. When the Tao Te Ching whispers that the wise do not strive, it is not calling you to laziness, but to surrender. The spiritual life is not about becoming more. It's about shedding what was never true. It is about dissolving the illusions that keep you from seeing what has always been there, that the light you seek is the light you are. So be still, be here, be now. In this moment, you lack nothing. In this breath, you are whole. The past cannot define you. The future cannot fulfill you. Only the present, radiant, holy, untouched by the judgments of the world, can reveal the truth. And the truth is simple. You are divine. Not someday, not once you've done enough. Now, as you are, let this be your sacred return. Let this moment be the altar. Lay down your striving. Lay down your fear. Lay down the armor that has kept love out and kept your light in. Come home to yourself. For the force that created you is not gone. It is not hidden. It is not conditional. It is here. It is now. It is you. And as you sink deeper into the stillness, you begin to sense that life is not something happening to you. It is something arising from you. Every blade of grass, every sound of the wind, every reflection in the mirror is not separate from your being, but intimately woven into the tapestry of your soul. There is no dividing line between you and the world you walk through. The boundary has always been imagined. You are not in the universe. You are the universe expressing itself as a moment in time, as a breath in a body, as love in human form. You were not placed here to chase a purpose like a prize outside yourself. You are the purpose, the flowering of your awareness, the quiet realization of your own divinity that is the mission. And as you awaken to this, as the fog begins to lift and you remember your origin, everything around you changes without the world needing to change at all. Because you no longer see through the eyes of lack or fear, but through the eyes of the soul, clear, compassionate, infinitely aware. There is a sacred intelligence in every cell of your being that cannot be taught by books or validated by titles. It is the knowing that does not need to speak, the wisdom that does not need to win. It is the river beneath the noise of your thoughts, and it has always been guiding you not with the urgency of control, but with the quiet certainty of love. You do not need to dominate life to feel safe in it. You do not need to map every step when the current knows the way. Let yourself be carried. You are not weak for letting go. You are wise. For surrender is not giving up, it is giving over. Giving over your small, constructed self to the vast, infinite essence of who you've always been. It is a sacred trust fall into the arms of the source that created stars and yet chose to dwell within your heart. And when you let go, not in fear but in faith, life ceases to be a struggle and begins to flow like a symphony that was never out of tune. You had simply forgotten you were the instrument. So breathe again, this time not to survive but to commune. Feel the breath not as a need but as a sacred offering. Each inhale a returning to presence. Each exhale a release of what never truly belonged to you. The burdens, the expectations, the illusions, they were never yours. You only held them because you forgot that you are already held. You don't have to be anything for this moment to love you. You don't have to earn the right to be embraced by existence. The flower does not beg to bloom. It simply turns to the light and opens. And you, dear soul, are no different. The light is already here. You only need to stop hiding. It's not the darkness that binds us. It's the belief that we are the darkness. But the truth is, you are the light looking through the veil, not the veil itself. You are the seer, not the wound. You are the awareness that observes the pain, not the pain that defines the awareness. And when this truth enters your heart, not as a thought, but as a knowing, you will feel a peace that cannot be touched by circumstance. The kind of peace that sits unmoved while the winds howl, that smiles not because everything is perfect, but because you are no longer trying to fix what was never broken. You begin to live not from striving, but from allowing, not from the clenched fists of fear, but from the open palms of surrender. And in that openness, you become a vessel through which the divine moves, speaks, heals, and blesses, not with effort, but with essence. This is the sacred invitation of your life, not to climb higher, but to descend deeper, to the innermost sanctuary where the force that created you is still waiting, not with conditions, not with judgment, but with the quiet, unshakable love of something that has always known you, even when you didn't know yourself. And now it calls you again, not with a shout, but with a whisper, not with a demand, but with a presence so tender it can only be felt in the spaces where the noise stops. Return there. Return to the place within you that has never been afraid. Return to the knowing that you are not a wave in search of the ocean. You are the ocean, playing as a wave for a little while. And in that return, may you remember the force that created you is still within you. It always was, and it always will be. Because something in you, ancient and silent, is ready now not to be convinced, but to be known again. Not in words, but in being. There is a rhythm to this universe, and you are not outside of it. You are not an accident trying to find your place in a grand design. You are the design. You are the breath and the breather. You are the question and the answer. You are the mystery unfolding itself through the form of a human life. And every time you pause, every time you choose presence over performance, silence over story, truth over image, you step back into that rhythm. You stop fighting the current and begin to move as the river itself. And the river does not wonder where it is going. It flows. It trusts the downward pull, the quiet gravity that guides it. And so must you trust the current within the inner pull toward stillness, toward peace, toward love not found but remembered. You spend so long looking outside for direction, teachers, maps, rules, instructions. But the true compass has always been within, quietly turning toward truth, even when the path seemed uncertain. This is the paradox of awakening. Nothing is added, and yet everything is revealed. You don't become more you remember, you are already whole. Even the broken parts, the cracks, the doubts, the trembles, they too are sacred. Not as flaws, but as openings, entry points for the light to pour in. The wound is not where you were abandoned by the divine. It is where the divine never stopped entering. And when you understand this, when the mind softens its grip and the heart begins to open, not because it feels safe, but because it finally feels real, then something shifts. The world doesn't become easier, but it becomes lighter. You don't stop feeling, but you stop resisting what is felt. You become like a tree rooted deep in the earth, no longer afraid of the seasons. Because you know your life is not defined by winter, nor measured by bloom. It is made sacred by its beingness, not its performance. This is the essence of freedom, not that life conforms to your will, but that your will melts into the infinite wisdom of life itself. You stop praying for the path to change and begin to bless the ground beneath your feet. You see that the force within you does not fear uncertainty. It birthed uncertainty so that discovery could be born. It created contrast not as punishment, but as palette. And your soul chose this life, this path, this very moment, not to escape it, but to transform through it. You are not late, you are not behind, you are not unfinished. You are precisely where the divine needs you to be for the next unfolding. The ego will scream for control. It will argue with reality, try to rewrite the moment, declare war on what island, but the soul only whispers yes. Yes to the rain and the Sunday, yes to the breaking and the blooming, yes to the quiet mystery that says even when you cannot see the way forward is still seeing you. And how do you trust that? Not by force, but by surrender. Not by solving, but by softening. By stepping back and letting the breath lead. Letting the heart speak. Letting life write its poetry through your presence. Because the force that created you didn't make a mistake. It didn't plant you here to be lost in striving or drowning in proving. It placed you here, now, in this body, in this breath, because it knew what it was doing. It knew that within you was the strength to remember, the grace to rise, the humility to kneel before something greater, not as inferior, but as intimately connected. The wave does not bow to the ocean in submission, it bows in union, in remembrance, in joy. And so must you, not to shrink yourself, but to dissolve the illusion that you were ever separate to begin with. Let yourself be guided now, not by fear, but by feeling, not by habit, but by truth. Let each step be less about arriving and more about revealing. Let each moment become a homecoming, a return to the quiet sanctuary where your divinity has never been absent. And in this return, in this sacred unfolding, may you begin to live not as someone chasing light, but as the light remembering it never stops shining. You see, the more you live from this space, the space where the soul breathes freely, the less you feel the need to hold on to identities that once made you feel safe. You no longer need to be the strong one, the perfect one, the one who always knows, always succeeds, always appears untouched. Because now you know that true strength is not in the appearance of control, but in the willingness to be open, to be real, to let your life be a prayer instead of a performance. And in that vulnerability, you discover a deeper truth, that the same force that painted the galaxies into being is the same presence that pulses through your most tender moments. It does not need you to be anything more. It only asks that you be what you already are, open, present, surrendered, not weak, surrendered, not resigned, aligned. There is no shame in shedding what you no longer need, no shame in letting the mask slip, the guard fall, the persona soften into dust. What you lose in image, you gain in soul. And the soul is not interested in being impressive. It is only interested in being authentic. It is only interested in love. But not the kind of love the world sells to you, conditional, transactional, fragile, number. The love that lives in the heart of the divine is different. It has no edges. It has no terms. It is not earned. It is not won. It is not lost. It is what you are made of. It is what you've always been. And when you remember that, when you return to that place of origin, not with your mind, but with your being, you stop waiting for the world to reflect back your worth. Because your worth no longer comes from reflection, it comes from radiance. It comes from the source within. And this source, this sacred force that whispered you into existence, it does not retreat, it does not punish, it does not withhold. It is the unchanging, unmoving, unconditional presence of life itself. And it remains with you even when you forget, even when you wander, even when you resist. The light does not disappear just because you close your eyes. It waits patiently, lovingly, until you are ready to see again. And now you are beginning to see. You are seeing through the illusions of separation, of lack, of otherness. You are seeing the divine in the faces around you, not because they've changed, but because you've remembered where to look. You see that every being is a mirror. Every stranger, every wound, every joy, a reflection of your own unhealed places and your own infinite capacity to heal. This is a sacred alchemy of awakening, to transform suffering not by avoiding it, but by embracing it with the eyes of the divine. To look at your own pain, not with judgment, but with compassion so deep it dissolves the story and reveals the soul beneath. And when you do that, when you love yourself, not in spite of your scars, but because of them, you unlock something ancient, something that has been waiting lifetimes to be felt. A knowing beyond thought, a presence beyond effort. It says, I have never left you. Even in your darkest hour, I was there. Even when you felt most alone, I was holding you. Not because you did something right, but because I am you, and I can never abandon myself. Let that in. Let it wash through the chambers of your heart that still grip the idea that you must do more, be more, fix more. Let it soften the tight places, the clenched truths, the old fears dressed as wisdom. Let it cleanse the shame you've carried for being human, for breaking down, for not always knowing the way. The force that created you did not make a mistake. It wove your humanity with your divinity, not as opposites, but as complements, two hands of the same presence, one reaching toward the sky, the other rooted in the soil. You are both, the light and the longing, the storm and the silence. And that is not something to fix, that is something to revere. And in this reverence, in this deep bow to all that you are, the journey is no longer about becoming something else. It becomes about being what you have always been. It becomes about remembering. Then we continue, as truth does, without interruption, without apology, without end. And so the remembrance deepens, not as a sudden lightning strike, but as the slow unveiling of the sky at dawn. Each moment, a little more light. Each breath, a little more space. The fog begins to lift, not because you fought it away, but because you stopped trying to escape it. You let it be. You let yourself be. And in that letting, something sacred emerged, not from effort, but from grace. Grace is not something you earn. It is not a prize given to the deserving. It is the ever-present offering of the divine to the part of you willing to receive. It flows most freely into the open hands, the softened heart, the mind that bows instead of resists. And grace, once welcomed, begins to rewrite your entire way of being. Not by changing the world around you, but by dissolving the lens through which you see. You begin to witness yourself not as a collection of flaws or tasks or unmet expectations, but as a work of sacred art in progress, not unfinished, not broken, just unfolding. And this unfolding, oh, this sacred unfolding, it is not something to rush. It is not something to master. It is something to trust. Can you feel it now, the shift? The gentle loosening of the grip you've held on who you thought you had to be. That subtle release is the soul's way of exhaling, of saying, yes, beloved, this is the way home. Because home is not a place, it is a presence, a frequency, a remembering that wherever you are, when you are with yourself, truly with yourself, you are with God. And God is not far away. God is not watching from a distance. God is not a judge behind the sky. God is this moment, this breath, this stillness. God is the invisible intelligence moving through your bloodstream, the silent witness behind your thoughts, the warmth you feel when all else falls away and only love remains. This love, it is not a feeling, it is a state of being. It is the language of the soul, the voice of the force that created you. It does not shout, but it is louder than fear. It does not compete, but it is stronger than doubt. And it says over and over again, in every silence, in every sunrise, in every ache, in every joy, you are not separate, you are not alone, you are not forgotten. You are my expression, my extension, my embodiment. and I live within you still. And when you receive that, not just in your mind, but in your marrow, something begins to crack open. The armor you wore for decades begins to fall away. Not because you forced it, but because you no longer need it. You realize you were never meant to be defended, you were meant to be revealed. And what is revealed is not small, it is not fragile, it is not uncertain. What is revealed is magnificent. The light that breaks through is not a new light. It is the original light, the one that has been waiting behind the curtain of fear and story and conditioning, the one that has been untouched by every storm, the one that remembers what you forgot, that you are sacred, that you are powerful, that you are and always have been divine. Because now you see, don't you? Not with your eyes, but with your being. You see that every moment of pain was not a punishment, but an invitation. Every silence was not emptiness, but a portal. Every longing, every ache, every question, they were not signs of what was missing, but whispers from what was waiting. The force that created you was never absent, it was simply quiet. Waiting for you to key it too. And now you are quiet enough to hear it. You hear it in the spaces between your thoughts, in the warmth behind your breath, in the inexplicable peace that comes when you stop running and start listening, when you stop searching and start surrendering. And in this stillness, the most profound truth arises not as an idea, but as a knowing. There is nowhere to go, nothing to become, no future version of yourself to chase down, no enlightenment to earn, because the light is already here, because you are already home. The wave at last remembers that it was never apart from the ocean. The leaf, gently falling, does not mourn it dances, for it knows it has always been held by the tree. And you, beloved, you now remember that your soul has always been held by something infinite, something holy, something formless and loving beyond words. So what now? Now you live, not in reaction, but in revelation. Not in fear, but in fullness. You speak not to be heard, but to offer truth. You create not to prove your worth, but to express your divinity. You walk not to escape your pain, but to walk with it like an old friend, knowing even pain is sacred when touched by presence. You move through the world not to win, not to earn, not to convince, but to radiate, to serve, to shine without trying, to love without condition. And when doubt returns for it, will you no longer panic? You welcome it. You breathe with it. You sit beside it like a child who simply forgot the way, because now you know the way is not out there. The way is within. And when the world asks, who are you to be so free? You will smile gently, silently, and say nothing. For your life will speak louder than words. Your presence will answer questions no language can. You are not here to be understood. You are here to be true. You are not here to follow a script. You are here to embody the sacred improvisation of being. You are not here to perform the divine. You are here to remember that you are the divine. So breathe now, not as a task, but as a prayer. Let the breath move as it always has, without your control, a soft reminder that life loves you, even when you forget to love yourself. Let each breath be a return to the center, the source, the still flame that never flickers, no matter how fierce the storm. And as you rise from this remembrance, do not look back to who you were, bless them. Thank them, lay them down gently, and step forward not into a new self, but into the self that always was unveiled, unburdened, unbound, for the force that created you is still within you. And now you remember, now you are free. There is a silent turning point in every soul's journey, a moment not marked by fanfare or fireworks, but by stillness. A moment when the seeking slows, the questions soften, and something ancient within you begins to rise, not as a scream, but as a whisper. That whisper carries a truth so profound and so simple that the mind, with all its complexity, can only bow to it. That truth is this: miracles are not rare events, they are your natural state. And they begin the instant you align with the source. You are not separate from the infinite. You are not apart from God or disconnected from the divine. The same energy that gives life to galaxies courses through your veins. The same intelligence that carved rivers and painted sunsets moves your lungs, beats your heart, and dreams through your eyes. And yet, somewhere along the way, you were taught to forget. Taught to believe you were only a body, only a name, only a role to play in a world of form. But I am here to remind you, not with urgency, but with reverence, that you are none of these things. You are the space in which these things arise. You are the awareness, the watcher, the silent field of presence that cannot be touched by change or time. You are the sky, and your thoughts are merely the clouds that pass. You are the ocean, and your emotions are only waves that rise and fall. You are the light, and this world is your reflection. The ego will resist this truth. It will tell you that you are small, that you must prove, perform, and achieve to earn your place in this universe. It will whisper that you are not enough, not yet, not until, and it will keep whispering that lie until you look it in the face and say, I remember who I am. You are not what you've done. You are not what was done to you. You are not your failures, your wounds, your achievements, or your regrets. You are the eternal, unchangeable presence beneath it all. The source is not outside of you, it is within you, as you forever. And when you remember this, not as an idea, but as a lived reality, life begins to shift, not in chaos, but in harmony, not by effort, but by alignment. You no longer need to chase miracles because you've become one. You no longer need to seek love because you are it. You no longer pray for peace to arrive, you breathe and remember, peace is who I am when I stop pretending I am not. In the stillness, in the surrender, miracles begin. Not because the world changes, but because your perception is healed. You begin to see as the source sees, without judgment, without fear, without the distortions of the ego. You see wholeness in the broken, light in the dark, beauty in the seemingly mundane. You see yourself not as a separate wave, but as the ocean remembering its form. And in that remembrance, life becomes sacred again. You wake in the morning, not to perform, but to express. You speak, not to be heard, but to bless. You move, not to get somewhere, but to reveal what's already here. Every step becomes a prayer. Every breath becomes a bridge. Every moment becomes a doorway into the divine. This is not a fantasy. This is your reality when you return to the truth of who you are. And that return does not require a pilgrimage or perfection. It only requires presence. The courage to stop running, the grace to be still, and the faith to know that everything you've been seeking is seeking you back. You are not here to create alignment. You are here to allow it. You are not here to earn the divine's favor. You are here to recognize you were never without it. You are not a mistake trying to become worthy. You are a miracle slowly waking up to your own light. And that light is not fragile. It does not flicker based on opinion or circumstance. It is steady, unwavering, eternal. It shines even when you forget it's there. It forgives even when you withhold grace from yourself. It is the part of you that has never been wounded, never been lost, never been anything less than divine. The Tao Te Ching says, when I let go of what I am, I become what I might be. But even that is only half the story. Because when you let go of what you thought you were, your name, your labels, your masks, you do not become something new. You reveal what has always been. The pure awareness, the divine spark, the one who watches the sunrise without needing to explain it, the one who feels love ripple through their chest for no reason other than because it's true. That is who you are. You are not the seeker. You are the sought. You are not the question. You are the answer waiting to be realized. And when you finally, fully remember this, miracles cease to be rare. They become the rhythm of your days. Because miracles are not interruptions of nature. They are the return to it. They are what happens when the false dissolves and the real remains. They are not loud, they are not flashy, but they are life-altering. The miracle of waking up in love with yourself, not as an egoic concept, but as a spiritual reality. The miracle of looking into another's eyes and seeing yourself. The miracle of forgiving, not because you condone, but because you are no longer willing to carry pain into your future. The miracle of gratitude so deep it makes your ordinary moments feel holy. This is what happens when you align with the source. Not because the source rewards you for obedience, but because alignment removes the static that blocks the signal of your own soul. And when the static is gone, clarity emerges. Love flows, peace remains, and life becomes not a problem to solve, but a mystery to live. This is the miracle. This is the invitation, and this is who you are. The miracle, you see, is not reserved for saints or sages. It does not require perfect faith or flawless behavior. It asks only for your willingness to remember. And once you remember, even for a moment, you begin to live as one who no longer walks alone because you realize you never have. That silent presence, the source within, has walked every step with you through joy and grief, through triumph and confusion, not judging, not correcting, but patiently waiting for you to turn inward and listen. And when you listen, not with your ears, but with your being, you begin to hear a different rhythm beneath the noise. Not the rhythm of the world, frantic and fearful, but the rhythm of truth, steady and serene. It beats like a second heart within you, untouched by time. That is alignment, not a task, but a tuning. You tune your awareness not to the volume of the world, but to the silence of the infinite. In that silence, you remember something you never truly forgot, that you are safe, not because life promises comfort, but because you are held by something greater than circumstance. You are cradled by the same force that opens flowers without hands and lifts oceans without struggle. This force does not abandon, it does not punish, it only asks to be let in. But to let it in, you must first let go. Let go of the need to control what was never yours to begin with. Let go of the maps drawn by fear and the scripts written by expectation. The miracle does not unfold where the ego demands it blooms, where surrender creates space. You cannot clutch your way into peace. You cannot strategize your way into grace. You can only soften. You can only yield. Like the river that flows, not because it knows the way, but because it trusts the slope beneath it, your life begins to move when you stop resisting the current of your own soul. This is not passivity. This is power, the kind of power that requires no noise, no defense, the kind of power that can stand quietly in a storm and know the storm will pass, but the soul will remain. You are not here to fight life into shape. You are here to dance with it, to let it reveal its rhythm to you, not through control, but through communion. And this communion begins the moment you stop treating life as an enemy to be conquered and start treating it as a partner in awakening. When you align with the source, life stops being a battle and becomes a conversation. Not everything will be easy, but everything will be sacred. Not every path will be smooth, but every step will be meaningful. Even your sorrow will be transformed, not erased, but alchemized. What once broke you now opens you. What once made you ache now makes you wise. Pain ceases to be punishment and becomes initiation. Suffering stops defining you and starts refining you. You begin to see that nothing was wasted. Not the silence, not the confusion, not even the heartbreak. Because all of it, every drop, was guiding you back to this one holy truth. You are never outside the arms of the divine, not for a moment, not for a breath. And when you know this, not as belief, but as being, you become untouchable in the deepest sense. The world may misunderstand you. People may project their pain onto you. But nothing can uproot the peace that blossoms from alignment. It is not a peace that needs protection. It is a peace that protects you without a wall, without a fight, without a single word. This is the miracle. You no longer need to be different to be whole. You no longer need to arrive to be complete. You are not a problem to be solved. You are a mystery to be lived. And that mystery is beautiful. Then let us go deeper still, not away from the world, but further into the heart of it, further into the part of you that has always known the way, not with facts, but with feeling, not with answers, but with a presence so pure, so immediate, that it renders all questions silent. The soul does not need to know what comes next. It only needs to be here. For here, this sacred fleeting now is the only place the source can be felt. Not in the past, wrapped in memory, not in the future, woven in worry, but in this breath, this heartbeat, this quiet, open space between thoughts. And the more you stay here, the more miracles arise, not because you earned them, but because you stopped resisting them. You stopped living as if love were scarce. You stopped bargaining with life. You stopped waiting for permission to feel free, to feel joy, to feel worthy. What a profound shift it is when you stop postponing your peace. You no longer say, I'll be calm when, or I'll be grateful if. You no longer place your serenity on a distant pedestal, waiting for conditions to grant you what already lives within you. You begin to understand deeply, irrevocably, that everything you have been chasing is something you must now allow. The light is not far away. It is only dimmed by your belief that you are not yet ready to see it. But you are ready. You were ready the day you were born. Not ready to become someone, but ready to remember the someone you already are, the eternal one, the divine presence, clothed for a while in skin and story. And when you live from that remembrance, you stop performing, you stop defending, You stop editing your soul to make it more palatable to a world lost in its own forgetting. You live instead with open hands, open eyes, open heart. You begin to notice what you once overlooked, the way the morning light slips through the curtain, an ordinary miracle. The sound of your own breath as you lie awake before dawn, proof that you are still here, still being held by life. Even the ache in your chest becomes sacred because you no longer fear it. You know now that pain is not the absence of grace. It is often the very doorway through which grace enters. And so you soften to the mystery. You soften to not knowing. You soften to the possibility that this moment, however unfinished it may seem, is exactly what your soul needs. You are not a project. You are a presence. You are not an equation to solve, but a field to feel, a space to inhabit, a consciousness to awaken. And in that awakening, the world begins to feel new again, not because it has changed, but because you have. The trees seem to speak in silence. The sky hums with belonging. Even strangers carry a glint of recognition in their eyes, as if your soul remembers theirs from somewhere far beyond this place. Because it does. Because all separation is illusion. There is only one of us here, playing, learning, growing, remembering. And the miracle is not that you discover this truth. The miracle is that you begin to live it. Not on Sundays, not in sacred spaces, but in your kitchen, in your tears, in your laughter, in the quiet moment before sleep when your soul sighs and says, yes, this is it, this is enough. No more becoming, no more pretending, just this, just being. And being, my dear soul, is the beginning of every miracle that ever was. You are not here to fix what was never broken. You are not here to collect more light. You are here to realize that you are the light, casting shadows only when you forget to stand in your own radiance. The darkness was never a punishment. It was a passage, a tunnel you had to walk through to learn that illumination doesn't come from the world, it shines from within you. The source does not send storms to test you. It sends storms to show you that the calm has always lived inside you, that you are not the branches torn by the wind, you are the root that holds. And when the winds of life howl through the soul, as they sometimes must, you no longer grip for safety in the external. You drop deeper into your own presence. You find sanctuary not in escape, but in anchoring. You let the storm pass through you like music through a hollow reed, changing you, yes, but never destroying. This is the power of surrender, not weakness, but wisdom. The wisdom to stop resisting what island. The grace to let life touch you fully without shrinking from it. To let both joy and sorrow have their place at your table, knowing that nothing comes without offering you a piece of your own awakening. There is a holy maturity that begins to grow when you stop needing everything to feel good and start allowing everything to be sacred. You no longer search for perfect moments. You make the moment perfect by being utterly present within it. You no longer seek out sacredness in ritual alone. You discover it in the mundane. The way a child laughs without agenda. The way your hand fits your chest when your breath deepens. The way silence stretches wide enough to hold your every unspoken longing. And in that wideness, the divine arrives. Not as a voice from the heavens, but as a stillness so full, it silences all your questions. Not as a blaze of revelation, but as the subtle shift when your heart stops defending and starts trusting. Trusting not in outcomes, but in essence. Trusting not in what the path looks like, but in what walks it with you. The source is not a destination. It is the ever-present pulse beneath every step. And you don't get closer to it by striving. You become aware of it by shedding the identity built from survival, shedding the beliefs you borrowed but never questioned, shedding even your hopes until what's left is not hope but knowing. A knowing that is beyond emotion, beyond sensation, beyond explanation. A knowing that simply says, I am. And that I am is not a phrase, it is a frequency, a field, a home you carry with you, no matter how lost the world appears outside. From that field, you begin to live differently. Not louder, not faster, but with a gravity that pulls all things into balance. Your words become fewer, but more true. Your choices become simpler, but more powerful. You stop chasing alignment and start embodying it, wordless, weightless, unstoppable. Not because you've gained something new, but because you've finally allowed what's always been. And so the river flows onward, not seeking the ocean, but knowing it is already part of it. This is how your soul moves when you stop interrupting it like water, gentle but undeniable. It doesn't need permission to flow. It doesn't need validation to exist. It simply follows its nature. And your true nature, unburdened by thought or fear, is just as effortless, just as pure. There is nothing you must do to become who you are. The sky does not strain to be blue. The mountain does not strive to be strong. The rose does not earn its fragrance. And you, divine, infinite, eternal, you do not need to hustle for your place in the sacred order of things. You belong because you are. And yet, how often have you felt exiled from your own being? Not because you were cast out, but because you believed the voices that said you had to earn your way home. But no one can deny you entrance to a kingdom that lives within you. No gatekeeper holds the key to your wholeness that was placed in your heart before your first breath. You unlock it not by force, but by remembrance. You remember through stillness, through wonder, through choosing truth over approval and presence over performance. And in that remembering, life no longer feels like a test you must pass. It feels like a dance, a sacred movement between the seen and unseen, between your form and your formlessness, between your temporary expression and your eternal essence. The dance is not choreographed, it is improvised with the divine. Each moment offers a rhythm. Each breath is an invitation. Each choice is a brushstroke in the masterpiece you are painting with your presence. And the miracle is not that the masterpiece is perfect. The miracle is that it is alive, that you are alive, that the infinite, the unnameable, the source itself chose to express as you. Can you feel the wonder of that? Not as a concept, but as a vibration beneath your skin. You are not merely in the universe. The universe is in you. Every star, every tide, every whisper of wind carries the same origin as your consciousness. The atoms that make up your body once danced in the core of ancient suns. The love that stirs in your chest is not yours alone. It is the echo of something that moves all things toward wholeness. And when you remember this, the false boundaries begin to dissolve. You stop separating spirit from flesh, sacred from mundane, self from other. You begin to live in communion, not just with the divine, but with everything. The tree is no longer just wood and leaf, it is a presence. The sky is no longer just air and light, it is a cathedral. The stranger is no longer a mystery, they are a mirror. Everything is whispering, you are part of this. You are never alone. You are the miracle and the witness to it all. And so you walk not in fear, but in reverence. Not because every moment is easy, but because every moment is holy. Because when reverence becomes the rhythm of your life, you no longer live from habit, you live from harmony. You listen differently. You see with the eyes behind your eyes. And suddenly, even the smallest encounter becomes charged with meaning, with presence, with a quiet knowing that something far greater than you is living as you. You begin to realize that alignment is not a task to be achieved, it is a truth to be remembered in every step, every silence, every surrender. There is no striving here, only returning. Returning again and again to that still point within you that never left. That place so vast and unshaken that no opinion can distort it, no storm can move it. And from that center, something extraordinary begins to happen, not outside of you, but within. You begin to live, not in reaction, but in revelation. Not from memory, but from moment. You are no longer pulled by the gravity of old stories. You are moved by the magnetism of truth. The truth that you are loved, not because of what you do, but because of what you are. The truth that you are guided not by maps and plans, but by a deeper knowing that rises in stillness like a tide. The truth that life is not punishing you, it is polishing you, shaping you into a clearer vessel for light to pass through. And in this polishing, you start to welcome even the friction. You see that the moments that once made you shrink were actually sacred fires, burning away the layers of illusion that kept you from your own brilliance. What once felt like loss becomes space. What once felt like failure becomes refinement. What once felt like confusion becomes the breath before clarity. And you stop waiting for your life to begin, because you see now that it has always been happening perfectly, painfully, beautifully, just as it must. You are not behind. You are not off track. There is no track. There is only unfolding. There is only now. And now is enough. Now contains everything. When you stop arguing with what is, you find yourself embraced by what has always been. This is the miracle, not that you escape suffering, but that you discover a stillness within it. Not that you never fall, but that you rise softer, wiser, more aligned each time. Because alignment is not rigidity, it is fluidity. It is a tree bending in the wind, rooted and resilient. It is a river finding its way, not by force, but by yielding to gravity, to guidance, to grace. And so you yield not as surrender to defeat, but as surrender to the divine choreography of your life. You stop controlling and start collaborating. You stop fixing and start flowing. You stop seeking the miraculous and start embodying it. Because you now know the miracle is not something you will find. The miracle is what you become when you stop pretending you are not already whole. There comes a moment, quiet, uncelebrated, invisible to the outside world, when you stop searching for transformation and begin to live it. Not because something changed, but because you did. Because you finally turned inward with sincerity instead of strategy. Because you no longer asked life to give you peace, you offered peace to life. And in that reversal, the world becomes softer. Not because the noise stops, but because it no longer reaches the center of you. You've become the stillness beneath the sound, the sky beneath the clouds, the unmoving presence that allows all things but clings to none. This is not a detachment born from numbness. It is a compassion born from clarity. A seeing that is so complete, so rooted in truth, that judgment dissolves and love remains. You love not because people earn it, but because love is what flows through you when there is nothing left to protect. You forgive not because it is easy, but because your soul can no longer carry the weight of an old story. You let go not because you no longer care, but because you finally trust what comes next. And trust, that is the sacred soil in which miracles bloom. Not forced, not fabricated, but revealed. Trust allows you to walk into the unknown without fear, to speak without needing applause, to rest without guilt. It is the quiet power of one who knows, I do not walk alone. I walk with every breath of creation. I walk with the intelligence that paints galaxies and grows gardens from dust. I walk with the source not above me, not beyond me, but as me. And from this knowing, new eyes open. You stop interpreting life through the lens of lack. You begin to see not what is missing, but what is mirroring. Every situation becomes a teacher. Every delay becomes protection. Every ending becomes the fertile ground of rebirth. Even the silence becomes sacred, especially the silence, because in silence there is no role to perform, there is no mask to wear, there is only being. And in being, you meet the divine, not as an idea, but as the very texture of your existence. You realize you don't need more time, you need more presence. You don't need more achievements, you need more alignment. You don't need to be saved, you need to remember that you were never lost. This is the gentle revolution of the soul, the one that doesn't arrive in thunder but in a soft exhale, a knowing without words, a freedom without noise, a return without distance. And once you touch this space within you, even for a breath, you are changed. You no longer need to explain yourself to the world, you simply live your truth. You no longer need to convince others to understand. You understand yourself, and that is enough. You no longer chase certainty. You walk in wonder. The world may not see the shift, but you feel it in the way your feet meet the ground, and the way your eyes meet the sky, and the way your spirit says, yes, this is the way. There is a silence here, ancient, sacred, undisturbed. It does not demand that you change. It does not wait for you to earn its grace. It simply welcomes you like the ocean welcomes the river without question. It wraps around your weariness, your longing, your years of reaching, and it whispers the only truth that matters now: you are already held. Can you feel that? Not as a fleeting comfort, but as a foundation beneath your very breath. You are already in the place you long to reach. Not because everything outside has been resolved, but because everything within has been remembered. The light you prayed would save you has been quietly burning in your chest all along. And now that you've stilled yourself enough to see it, everything begins to glow. You begin to walk not with answers, but with reverence. Not with certainty, but with peace. The world no longer needs to change for you to be free, because your freedom was never in the world. It was always in your willingness to meet it all with open hands, with an unguarded heart, with a soul no longer hiding from its own radiance. You stop measuring your worth by what you produce. You stop chasing love that demands your shrinking. You stop resisting the moment because the moment has become holy. And so you move through life like one who remembers what most have forgotten. That joy is not pleasure, it is presence. That success is not status, it is alignment. That peace is not the absence of trouble, it is the presence of truth. And the truth is this: you are the miracle you were waiting for. You are not on the way to becoming something greater. You are the greater already revealed when the veil of doubt is lifted. You are not healing toward wholeness. You are peeling away all that is not whole. You are not climbing toward the divine. You are remembering that the divine was never above, never beyond, never apart. It has always been within you, breathing you, guiding you, loving you in ways words cannot hold. And now, as the journey folds into this sacred stillness, you don't need a conclusion. You don't need a finish line. You simply need to rest in the knowing that you are aligned with the source. And when you are aligned, life aligns with you, not because you control it, but because you become so deeply yourself. The universe cannot help but respond in harmony. So let yourself soften one final time. Let yourself breathe, not to survive, but to embody the miracle you are. And may you carry this remembrance into every room you enter, into every silence you keep, into every kindness you offer, not to prove anything, not to fix anything, but to live as one who has returned. Return to the breath, return to the truth, return to the source. And in that return, everything is made whole. You are home, and home, beloved soul, is where the miracle has always been.